Okay, so it says we're live, and it's 3:49 on a Thursday afternoon, and I haven't been able to do a video this week yet, so we're finally getting around to doing one, and I've got something really cool to open up for you guys today. I've got the 2026, however you want to say that. It's the movie version of Tri-Klops, Evil and Sees Everything from the Masters of the Universe Origins line. And I do have with me the cartoon collection version of Tri-Klops. So we can compare the two of those because, like a lot of things in this particular movie, they took a lot of influence aesthetically from the 2000X cartoon series. And I'm still not loaded up on my YouTube yet on my phone. But Al Davis is here, and he can see me, and he hopes I'm doing well, and I am. So I hope you're doing well also. I hope we're both doing well. That would be nice. And I'm still not up on my phone. You can see, like, I'm all grayed out and everything. Got Spider-Man underneath. It says, but every adaptation gets wrong about Spider-Man. Well, a lot of things, actually. I'm just going to refresh it and see. Yeah, there I'm up now. Okay, cool. So... let's go ahead and talk about Tri-Klops. Here's what the back of the package looks like with a nice piece of artwork of Tri-Klops with his signature sniper rifle, his definitive weapon that he's had since the 80s. Ah, man, I don't mind him having a sniper rifle. I've said this before, but I do wish he came with a sword. I think that him coming with a sword would be a lot better. I'm not saying instead of the sniper rifle either. Can come with both of them. That would be cool. But it says Tri-Klops, Evil and Sees Everything. A key member of the Evil Warriors, Tri-Klops uses his three-eyed sight and expert tech skills to fight for Skeletor and his campaign of darkness. And, I wish we'd seen a little bit more of Tri-Klops in the movie. Maybe we could have seen some of those tech skills or, see him actually using his three-eyed sight, because I guess we did a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked. Yeah, Tri-Klops unfortunately did not appear a whole lot in the movie, and I think that's a shame. Bobby Wald says, I wonder how fun Tri-Klops is whenever he goes to the eye doctor, which is better, A, B, or B, A, or B first or last. They're all good. I'm hoping that his visor is going to rotate, because that was a problem with the Chronicles figure, if you remember, is that like some of the earliest ones released for Chronicles, the visor was stuck, and apparently it was glued on, and that was a mistake that was made at the factory, so they had to fix it. So let's go ahead and open them up. We'll go real quick, have a look at the front of the package there. I've talked about the front of the package on these movie Origins figures before and how I enjoyed them. Al Davis says a snipe sword rifle combo would be cool. Hey, that would have been cool. But he didn't get really a chance to do much of anything. He didn't do any sword fighting or anything. Kyrus is here and says, hello, Alan. Hello, Kyrus. It's good to see you. Good to see everybody in the chat. Let me go ahead and get this open. I was trying to rearrange this room because I'm going to be moving soon. I'm not moving to a different house. I'm going to still be in the same house, but I'm moving to a different room in the house. So the setting's going to change a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to bring this couch down there with me or not. I'm not sure how feasible that's going to be, but we're going to find out. I would like to bring the couch. I like the couch. The couch has kind of become a character, hasn't it? And let's see here. Rubber tabs. Does he have rubber? He has rubber tabs around his ankles. I can definitely see those. Let's go ahead and get those off. And that one's kind of flush on there. Oh, these things are so annoying. And I don't see any other ones offhand. I don't think there are anymore. Well, let's go ahead and get them out of the package, and we'll find out. And sure enough, no more rubber tabs, and I almost dropped the sniper rifle. It almost fell right to the floor. And that would have been bad, wouldn't it have? Because then it would have been it might have fallen under the couch or something. And I pointed this out with the Chronicles version. It's got like three different magazines on there, which I think is pretty cool. since he's Tri-Klops, he's got 3 eyes, he's got 3 magazines, and then that funky scope, which looks like it's made to fit his visor, and then Tri-Klops himself. Now, I do believe that this figure is going to be a lot of new parts to him, because like with Man-at-Arms, there's enough costume details that they have to kind of, they can kind of have to redo a lot of stuff. And it seems like his visor is stuck, but it's just stuck like it's, how new toys have stuck joints. I was able to get it loosened up. So he's got, like I said before, this is mostly based on the 2000X version, but he does have at least one feature that the Filmation version had, which is these eyes on his visor. So he's got a round eye, and then he's got a square eye, and then he's got the triangular eye. And that is definitely a nod to Filmation. I've talked about this before, how I feel like Filmation probably did that because they wanted to, make it easier for the animation, make it less difficult to get the eyes mixed up, because that kind of thing can happen sometimes. So if you're drawing it in black and white line artwork, you wouldn't be able to tell what color it is if it's just normal shaped eye. But if you got a triangular eye and a square eye and a round eye, then that makes it a lot easier to keep track, right? Bobby Wald says, your room kind of reminds me of Scrooge McDuck's vault, except for instead of diving into coins, you're diving into toys. It is kind of like that, isn't it, at this point? Yeah. So hopefully when I get into my new room, I can keep it a little more organized. It just kind of became chaos over time. It was crazy. So Al Davis says, Biclops is just normal human too. Quadriclops is a mouthful. Quadclops. Yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put the sniper rifle in his hand and see how it works. And it's like they changed the grip of it a little bit, so it'll fit in a Masters of the Universe hand. But it's still, I think, fairly accurate. And it does have a trigger guard on there, but of course he doesn't have a trigger finger. But there he is with the sniper rifle. But if you're old school, hey, you can take one of the swords from one of the other mini Tri-Klops figures. You can swipe one of those, or if you're like me and you got a 3D printer, you can even 3D print one. And I think I might do that for this guy. But if you want to see what he looks like with a sword, we'll just borrow the one from 2000X real quick. And I think that actually works for him really well. It's not the same exact color because he's a little more olive drab in the movie and a little more forest green on 2000X. But I still think it works. So let's go ahead and get a look at these guys side by side, and we can see how similar they are. First of all, you can see that for his loincloth, he's got, it almost looks kind of like samurai armor in the 2000X version. And they made it a little bit more of a gladiator kilt in the movie version, but it still definitely has some of that influence to it, doesn't it? And then you can see the tube around his neck. That's a very 2000X sort of thing to do. And a lot more tech details to his arms and things like that. Because again, he's supposed to be like a little bit more cybernetic in this one. They were kind of ambiguous as to what Tri-Klops' visor was in the original toy. And I honestly always thought of it as being something mystical rather than being something like technological. But the 2000X version definitely made it unambiguously a bionic, cybernetic. He's a cyborg. And they made him a little less so on the cartoon because he doesn't have like the mechanical neck. But there's still some of that there. And they brought some of that back to this Tri-Klops figure too, where you can see a lot of the his arms look a little more cybernetic. And they're still like the same flesh color as his face. So is this supposed to be a skin, or is this supposed to be like completely robotic arms that are just kind of colored to look like flesh? Or how does that work? I don't know. It's weird. It's an odd choice. Well, let's go ahead and take him apart. So I want to look at some of these parts a little more closely. And his armor kind of pegs together on the sides here. And once we got his head off, we can pull that off of the and get this unpegged, we can pull this off fairly easily. Now, something I've noticed with some of these newer figures is that these pegs tend to be kind of tight. So be careful when you're pulling them off. You don't want to break the pegs or anything. But it is very similar in shape to the Tri-Klops armor that came with the original figure and that came with the cartoon collection figure here. And I still need to get a Filmation cartoon collection Tri-Klops. I still don't have that one. He doesn't come with a sword either, by the way. Al Davis says he thinks it works very well. And Al Davis says the movie version has a super skinny waist, like he's wearing a crotch girdle. Well, it's the it's that Masters Universe, that typical proportions where it's he's kind of like he's very top heavy, So, and then the gladiator kilt that comes off. So there's that, and underneath he's got just kind of the plain trunks like we see on the wrestlers a lot of the times, and you can see that his legs have that camo pattern over them, like the Chronicles figure had, and it looks really cool. I think they did a nice job of it. It's kind of an interesting idea to bring a little bit more of a tactical kind of military look into Tri-Klops. And I don't know if it's certainly not something I would have thought to have done, but I think it works. And you can see he's still got like the orange, the kind of metallic orange bracers like Tri-Klops always had. And the arms come off. This is like a typical Origins figure where everything comes apart and you can mix and match the parts. So that's cool. Then we can go ahead and get him put back together. And then we can talk about the articulation. So yeah, I was kind of hoping that this character would have a bigger presence in the movie than what he had. And unfortunately, he had a very small part. But I don't even think he had any lines. But unless I missed him somewhere. But it was still cool to see Tri-Klops in the movie at all. And maybe he'll get a bigger part in... I forgot to put the gladiator kilt back on. Maybe he'll have a bigger part in the sequel if they do make a sequel, which I think is likely at this point, since it's doing so well on Amazon Prime. It's kicking all kinds of ass on Amazon Prime as its digital release. So that's a good thing. That makes me very happy. All right, so I'm gonna, before I forget, I'm gonna put the sword back into his hand. Oh, hey, and I got this other sword, too, if you want to see him with the more classic Tri-Klops sword. The one that came with that Snake Man character. I forget his name at the moment. Drawing a blank on it. But yeah, there he is with the more classic type of Tri-Klops sword, if you want to see that. And, of course, that's a very bright green. And I have a version of this that I can print out, so I'm probably going to try to print him out one in a little more olive drab when I can get some filament in that color again. I think that would be fun. Maybe like an olive drab hilt and a silver blade. I think that would be the coolest thing. But for now, he's just got his sniper rifle, and we're just going to have to content ourselves with that. Can I get him into a two-handed pose with the sniper rifle? With this Origins type of articulation, which granted is good articulation, but since it's based on the original anatomy of our the vintage Masters Universe figures, it's not really made to be like a well-articulated figure. And that's why we run into a lot of problems with the articulations. I have the sword in sight was his one line. Okay, so he did have a line. I couldn't remember. Yeah, so oddly enough, because he doesn't have a sword himself. And then Bobby Wald says, I'm trying to think of who had the worst deaths in the Masters Universe movie. I'm thinking the Skella Knight. They got impaled on Spike. Yeah, that was a way to go right there. Personally, I'm again still disappointed that Moss Man went out like a chump, and I think he deserved better. So I'm gonna say Moss Man. Justice for Moss Man. By the way, I did finish up painting that horse for Moss Man. I keep meaning to do a community post where I have some images of that, but yeah, well, I'll have some of that up soon and on my Instagram and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, we can get him into a pretty decent two-handed pose with the sniper rifle. I'm surprised I could get him into this kind of pose. This is really cool. I'm happy with this. This makes me happy for like the idea that I had to do more G.I. Joe figures in the Motu Classics or the Motu Origins format. Al Davis agrees with me with Moss Man and says It was sad. It sure was. He deserved better. Mossman deserves better. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this figure so far. Let's talk about the articulation. And of course, if you're familiar at all with the articulation on these figures, you know, it's going to be pretty much the same as any other Origins figure, except for, like I said, the visor rotates around. So that's technically an extra bit of articulation there. But Tri-Klops can look up about that far, look down about that far. Great range of motion looking down. Tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all around the shoulders, but they're going to kind of bump into his breastplate a little bit. That shoulder armor there, the pauldrons there, is going to kind of bump into that a little bit. He's got his arms can raise up to the sides about that far. He's got a single joint of articulation of the elbow that bends in about that far, bends out about that far. That rotates all the way around. Wrist joints rotate all the way around and have a horizontal hinge. You know, this is one where I kind of feel like the vertical hinge might have been good for posing him with the sniper rifle. But like I said, I could still get him into a pretty good sniper rifle pose anyway, even with just the articulation that we have. So I'm not going to complain too much. Tri-Klops can rotate all the way around at the waist. He can kick up about that far. He can do the splits, no problem. And then he's got a single joint of articulation at the knee, bends in about that far. That rotates all the way around. Then he's got a boot cut that rotates all the way around. And then his foot can point down about that far. And his foot can point up about that far. And then that rotates all the way around. So Tri-Klops has been one of my favorite of the Evil Warriors since his introduction in the second wave of Masters of the Universe. And I always thought he was really cool. You know, a lot of people talk about how cool Trapjaw is. And Trapjaw is cool. Don't get me wrong. Trapjaw might be like the coolest of them all, besides Skeletor himself, as far as the Evil Warriors go. But personally, I always had a little bit more of a fondness for Tri-Klops. And I think it's partially because of how good a job they did writing him in the mini comic that he first appeared in. And I really liked his personality in that. And Trapjaw, while he's a really cool figure and a really cool design, even in the mini comic, he was written as being a little bit of a buffoon, if we're being honest. And he was always kind of written as being a little bit of a buffoon. And while I liked the character, obviously, and the figure is like one of the best in the whole line, I don't think the character appealed to me quite as much as the character of Tri-Klops, who seemed a little bit more intelligent than the usual Skeletor henchman. And I think that's probably why he got paired off with Evelyn a lot on the Filmation cartoon series, because she was probably one of the few that she could tolerate, because he wasn't a complete moron. So I always really liked Tri-Klops, and I think that this is like a really good interpretation of the character. Like I said, I do wish he'd come with a sword. And before anybody says, well, he didn't have a sword in the movie, yeah, he should have used a sword in the movie at some point then. I mean, we're being real about it. Okay, then my real question is, why didn't you use a sword in the movie? That would have been way cooler. But it was really cool seeing him in the movie, even if he didn't use a sword. Maybe in the sequel, maybe he gets a bigger part in the sequel. Maybe he gets to use a sword. That would be cool. And Al Davis agrees with me that the sword does, the gun does look great in both hands. I think that looks awesome. I was really surprised I could get that good of a pose out of it. And frankly, if they had taken my advice and given him the vertical hinge, if they'd have asked me about it and I told them to give him the vertical hinge instead of the horizontal hinge, I think it would have worked even better. In fact, let's see if I'm right, because this Tri-Klops actually does have a vertical hinge. So let's see if maybe the 2000X version can even hold it better, and I think he will. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect right there. So yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, that's pretty much it, I think, for our 2026 movie Tri-Klops. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I think he's a really cool figure, and he's definitely worth picking up. And I'm probably going to pick up myself some extras so I can use some of these parts for customs. I think there's a lot of really good potential for custom stuff here that I really want to try out. So that's something that we'll see in the near future, hopefully. But yeah, great figure. Al Davis says, after watching a lot more reactions to Motu, still not seen one yet that didn't enjoy it. That doesn't surprise me because it's a really fun movie and I really liked it. It was great. Bobby Wald says, I'd like to know Netflix series where Trapjaw and Tri-Klops start a cult for robotic enhanced people. That was an interesting little thing. And you notice how it was Tri-Klops that was calling the shots in that, not Trapjaw, because again, Tri-Klops is a guy who's like actually fairly intelligent. He's a and I thought they did a good job with that on that show. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment and let me know what you think about this version of Tri-Klops and what your favorite version of Tri-Klops is. If you watched the replay and you made it all the way, here's your homework assignment. Let me know what your favorite figure of Tri-Klops is. Do you go back to the vintage, maybe the 2000X? The classics version was really awesome. I think that one was great. Personally, I'm going to go with the new Eternia Tri-Klops. I thought that one was really cool, and I think that one might be the best version that I've had anyway. So, but anyway, that's it for this episode. Next episode, I'm not sure what I'm going to be back with, but I know I have the Mattel Flash figure to open up. I know I have a lot more McFarlane stuff still to open up, and I know I have the Filmation cartoon collection version of Fangman. So we'll have him to open up sometime in the near future. But thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.